All right, good day. And welcome to the Healing Reset. You guys, this is a podcast aimed at providing hope in your body's ability to heal. It can heal. Not only can your body heal and become balanced, it can maintain that health. You're amazing. I say this every single show because I truly believe you are amazing. If you're listening, thank you for being here. I'm Jess, your host. Today's episode is a discussion with Heather Gray. I was kind of researching her website, your website, Heather, and the intro just made me smile. She is a speaker, a functional practitioner, and a Lyme boss. She's the owner of Discovering Health. And obviously the part that made me smile is a Lyme boss. We've been talking a lot around Lyme disease, and we need more people like Heather to just get the word out. How do you overcome these health obstacles and chronic health in general? How do you overcome these obstacles and have a roadmap of hope for health? So Heather, thanks for coming on my show.
Can I get an amen of, especially around the hope? I have
Amen.
a podcast of my own, and that's in the word. There is hope. You are not crazy. There is hope,
Is
right?
that the title?
It's called Lyme, Mold, and Chronic Illness Recovery. You're not crazy. There is hope.
So guys, if this is an interesting episode to you, go out and absorb that podcast. But I'm just
spreading hope, right?
yeah. We just want to stay in that foundation of you don't have to live handcuffed or fettered to a diagnosis. There is an out. It doesn't mean it's a silver bullet. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow in a blink of an eye. It takes work, but like there's hope. Lyme boss, explain yourself. Where'd that title come from?
So I usually start off with anything is that I was basically born constipated, right? That is where my health journey began is at a very young age, sitting on the potty so long that my feet would fall asleep, right? And my mom and these doctors would give me these gross, nasty oils to soften my stool, but nobody was trying to figure out why the 4-year-old was constipated. So it's kind of like my first introduction into, let's just slap some Band-Aids on symptoms, right? Instead of digging deeper. Fast forward.
Yep. Hey, you're speaking real quick. You're speaking to a girl who used to sell a chronic constipation drug. So I am a good company right now for your 4-year-old self. Okay, continue on.
I did a whole webinar. What was it called? Talking Shit, the shocking truth about chronic constipation.
Yeah.
Because it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, right? There's so many Americans who aren't pooping regularly, and they don't realize how toxic and harmful that is to their health.
It's the way to get toxins out. Our body is so cool and how it processes that stuff. But side note, because of that job that I had, I feel so comfortable and empowered to talk about poop. So awesome. Another thing, we can actually link that in the show notes. All right, so you're chronically constipated as a 4-year-old.
And then a lot of early childhood trauma. So like my ACE scores would be off the chart. Which, if you don't know, what is it called? Adverse childhood events. And those ACE scores are tied to, research shows that they're tied to giving you more, you're more susceptible to autoimmune disease, chronic illness, depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies, all the things, as you become older. So Dr. Phil used to say, you got to rise above your raising, which is actually BS. Because actually that stuff gets stored in your nervous system and leads you more susceptible to chronic illness.
I just ordered and opened the book the other night. The Body Keeps the Score. And I am drooling over it in a good way of like, oh, it just hitting me good. It's a really interesting perspective that your body remembers even stuff we want to bury or we might black out from childhood. Your body remembers. It keeps the score.
He gets very graphic in that. So make sure you've got a lot of tissues next to you, especially if you have any trauma of your own, because you might step into some of your own trauma story as he's explaining these other people's. Like I was literally like ugly bawling on the couch while reading this book. And my husband was like, honey, what is going on? I'm like, this little girl. And it was bad. But it was great.
Really good to know.
Just be careful.
It's good to know. So when did all of that manifest? When did you figure out, I guess it really started manifesting when you were young, right? Chronic constipation.
Very much so. Well,
when did it all come to a head?
So I was bit by a tick when I was 13. I did not get a bullseye rash. Only 30% of people who ever get bit by a tick get a bullseye rash. I did not get a rash. We took the tick out improperly. That was part of the problem as well. My mom did it old school with a lighter, and it actually, when you do that, it makes them regurgitate what's in their system and scares them. So if they are carrying Lyme, your chances of getting it just went up.
Okay, pause real quick. Everyone has had an opportunity to pull a tick out of a dog. Maybe not, but if you've owned a dog, most likely, or a cat, maybe even yourself, how do you properly dislodge a tick?
You just take a pair of tweezers, get as close to your skin as possible, and pull straight up.
All right, cool. Education. All right, that's what we're here for.
Actually, then you can send it into tickology.com to have the tick tested, because a lot of people want to freak out and go on Doxy right away.
Yeah.
Save your gut, save your body from unneeded antibiotics, right? Go get the tick tested, and the turnaround is very quick. And they'll tell you, if yes, it's carrying Lyme, yes, it's look at these co-infections, or no, you're clean, you're good to go. But that's
that Doxy, for those listeners out there, that is an antibiotic that she was speaking of, doxycycline, pretty common to be put on once you have a tick bite or you suspect Lyme.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then 2 years later was my first suicide attempt, when I was 15. And again, back to the same old story. I'm in the hospital for a suicide attempt, and doctors are just putting me on antipsychotics, antidepressants, patting me on the head, and sending me back out the door. Again,
well, we break the body up into systems, right? And so we're dealing with your head, not.
Absolutely. Yeah. But again, so nobody was talking, the right hand's not talking to the left, no one's trying to figure out why this kid was trying to off herself.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple more years, another couple suicide attempts. I eventually went 27 years undiagnosed: Lyme disease, celiac, Hashimoto's, endometriosis, mold toxicity, heavy metals. Yeah.
Now, I had an episode a while ago, Dr. Milgram, he was talking about immobile and how your body can so easily become off balanced. And do you think through childhood trauma, through Lyme disease, through all of this, that your body became so imbalanced that it was allowing this incredible weight of chronic diseases, right? If we're just looking at labels, but it's really just your body being so imbalanced that it started manifesting in different places in different ways.
Yes. And so one of my, I started doing this new DNA testing on people. This company is doing things like cutting edge. It's incredible. But I really feel like everybody should have this test done at birth. Like, here's your brand new baby and here's their genetics, right? I found out that I actually have issues in my detox pathways, so I am going to be that canary in a coal mine. All the time growing up, oh, don't be so sensitive, when I get around perfume and I feel like I was going to puke, or if I overheat, so there were things that could have been done for a long time that wouldn't have overfilled my toxic bucket load. And that's how I'm doing so much better now. And lifestyle and diet, diet was crucial. I grew up on TV dinners, Hamburger Helper, Kool-Aid, mac and cheese, hot dogs, none of that stuff is food. And so that also adds to the toxic burden of the body, right?
Yeah. So when did you realize that this was connected, that endometriosis could be connected to Hashimoto's, could be connected in multiple different ways that your body was expressing? When did that come through that you realized, hey, I've got to treat this systematically?
Back when I graduated FDN in 2013, I heard the founder speak on a podcast. That's why I'm so passionate about being on podcasts, and that's why I started my own, is because this was my entry into functional wellness. When I heard him speaking of, you got to balance your hormones, you got to make sure your detox pathways are open, you got to heal and seal the gut, right? Something just intuitively told me, this is it. This is the missing puzzle piece to my health journey. And it was the first thing. Because throughout the years, I was my own advocate. I would pull beautiful informations, piece here, piece here, piece here, but nothing ever put the whole picture together for me like functional medicine did.
How would you best describe functional medicine?
Getting to the root cause of your issues. Not all. So you still got to be careful. There's still some functional practitioners out there that I've even dealt with that'll still just treat the paper. And that means just, throw stuff, herbs, right, at a test result instead of
it can be just very expensive medicine at that point.
Absolutely.
For
And
sure.
it's not going to do as much damage as some of the other stuff. There's not a lot of the side effects and the other things that go along with it. But if you're working with somebody and they're not asking you, what's your stress level like? How are you sleeping at night? What's your diet like? How
Yeah.
many times a day are you pooping? How much water are you drinking? You know, if they're not getting into that nitty-gritty lifestyle stuff, run.
Hmm. So you had mentioned that functional medicine kind of pulled it all together for you and connected pieces. On the flip side, where do you feel that conventional medicine maybe failed you along the journey?
The whole journey. I mean, even to get testing, because
Yeah.
at the time, you know, Western blot was the only test, and it's so inaccurate. And if you've had chronic Lyme, the disease itself is just stealthy. It's shutting down your immune system, and the Western blot is testing for an immune response.
Western blot is the name of the test.
Correct. Yeah, so they've come with new testing. It's, you know, a heck of a lot more accurate than it ever was. They've even come out with some free questionnaires that I actually start with all my clients.
Hmm.
And it really is pretty accurate on telling me whether they're dealing with like a mold issue or Lyme or co-infections or heavy metals or parasites, you know, just to kind of see where they're toxic, you know, they're mobile,
Hmm.
right? It's getting off balance before we ever just start throwing, you know, the lab testing can get expensive, right? You
Yeah.
know, really, and a lot of times by the time people get to me, they've been to 10, 15, 20 different practitioners, have spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to get answers. They've been told they're crazy. They've been told it's all in their head.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so I try to work with people kind of where they're at, but mostly building on the foundations.
Well, if I'm thinking through your journey, Hashimoto's, you're probably dealing with a doctor. Endometriosis, you're probably dealing with a different conventional doctor. Um, Lyme disease, were you aware you had it at that point? Because that might be a whole nother.
It was a physician's assistant. No, what was she? Yeah, she was a physician's assistant who did diagnose me or started looking into it. And that was after, like I said, 28 years of being undiagnosed.
Mhm.
And within 5 minutes, you know, of me telling her my story, she had a little twinkle in her eye and she's like, I know it's exactly what's wrong with you. She's like, I think it's Lyme. And I was like, whatever, crazy lady, you know, 5 minutes you've been talking to me and you know it's Lyme. And, you know, sure enough, you know, but that was their specialty. So
Huh.
yeah.
It's just like it's so and you're sitting here and you've been redeemed. I see it, right? Like you know your story and your story's pain has led to just this beautiful path. I often say suffering is the soul's gold, right? You get to just do something that projects awesomeness into the world for a better technical term. And I appreciate that so much. But what's really frustrating listening to you is it's so common and not everyone gets to touch that PA who's going to get a twinkle in their eye and say, I know what's been wrong with you. Most people suffering with endometriosis don't have their full hormone panel measured. Most people that have Hashimoto's are just put on a thyroid panel or a thyroid drug, and the
They're
full
not
thyroid panel is not even
exactly,
pulled. So they're
exactly.
not even diagnosed. Um, Most suicide attempts, the people will stay on an anti-anxiety or an SSRI their whole entire life, even though there's a black box warning that talks about suicidal ideation. And so I do see this as like a call, and you are maybe one of the lucky ones. I don't know how you look at your own story.
Absolutely lucky. Are you kidding? Like I I was an ex-stripper. I was an alcoholic. I was going down a really funky dark path for a
Mm-hmm.
really long time and living just like the traditional standard American lifestyle, right? High stress, go, 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 fueled off of coffee, filled off of sugar. Like this made me pause, right? This stopped me in my tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how to do things differently, show up differently, think differently, whole nine yards, different relationship with my higher power, like everything, everything. And I now, you know, it's what's led me to my life that I have now and that I can help others on this journey as well. So it was an absolute blessing. I'd be dead. I'd be dead by now if it wasn't for this disease.
So what did the first step look like? What you're empowered, the puzzle piece comes together, but you're still in a funky space. You're still eating a different diet. What was the first step? And then what was the hardest step Let's start talking about like the roadmap to health for someone who's in that space right now.
Right. So I wouldn't do the first step that I did. And that's part of the reason why I set up the program the way I have now, is from my own learning lessons, because it took me years and tens and thousands of dollars to still, even after I had the answers, to put the whole puzzle piece together. So I put it together now with diet. Diet is number one, absolutely, right there along with trauma. So we got to work on your nervous system, right? We got to get you out of fight or flight, because if you're constantly, if there's a tiger that's always in the room, right, you cannot heal when you're in that space. I mean, it's even called fight or flight, and then rest and digest and heal. And so if you're constantly in fight or flight, you're not healing, you're not digesting, you're not
I think
absorbing.
that tiger story needs to be expanded on a little bit, because a lot of us don't realize that when we're stuck in traffic screaming at, I don't know, a car 10 cars ahead, that our body can't differentiate the stress of a tiger versus the stress that we're just imposing on ourselves because we're frustrated or we're refusing to do deep box breaths, to work through something in calm versus high state of being. And so that tiger looks so different in the 21st century. And that's unfortunate. It can be your phone ringing, it can be the beep of a text, but like something that switches your body into high gear is putting you into that fight or flight in some cases. And we're not even aware of it because we're just used to living in this chaos sometimes of go, go, go.
Right. That was one of the beautiful, so I learned a lot of somatic experiencing work, and I put it into my program because that's what helped.
Explain somatic experience work for our listeners.
So somatic means body. So it's a gentle way of getting your nervous system switched into the parasympathetic and out of the sympathetic, out of the fight or flight and into the rest and digest. And they're easy, simple little techniques that you can do on a daily basis. Multiple times a day is better. But one of them was called titrating. And one of them was just as simple as, okay, I feel pressure on my back leg, and I feel, a coolness on my arm, because, and that's kind of how it would get you into the exercise, because most of us are so checked out of our body. Like you said, that we don't even realize we're in that stress. And so when we can learn to titrate, and then it took about a couple weeks. And then I was like, oh, I'm activated. I was always activated. I never realized there was any other way to be than activated. So
yeah. And by activated, you mean like heightened.
Yeah. Stressed out, where, right on.
Wired.
How I came to that journey is like my stepson and my husband would walk up the stairs, and the kitchen's at the top, and my back would be turned towards them, and I'd be doing whatever in the kitchen. Just normally walking into the kitchen, I would scream and throw what was ever in my hands, right? Like a very exaggerated, right? Result to being startled. After doing the somatic experiencing work for 21 days, they could actually walk into the room, and I would turn around and go, "Hi, babe." It was quite the difference, right?
There's something about being in your body the meditative side of it, of coming within and trying to realize the experience your body is having, feeling your heartbeat, understanding your breath. Where does your breath go? Can you shoot your breath all the way down into your diaphragm? There's something about being in your body that I think it's really cool you speak to. We've yet to really speak to it on the show. We talk about the soul and the brain body connection often, but not really like sitting in your body. So I think that somatic work for people out there that feel jumpy or feel super startly, it's like, start thinking through, are you in your body? Ask those curious questions. What does that look like? What if I shut my eyes and really focused on, what I'm experiencing, the ground underneath me, the pressures that I feel. It's a really cool concept. It's not a concept. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to show you an exercise?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. So I'm going to combine two, because I love them both together. One's called a VU, and it's just like it sounds. We're going to say VU as we push out, but the other one is called a push away. And so whenever we're feeling like the world's kind of coming in on us, I love doing the push away, because it kind of helps reclaim your energetic space. So you're going to put your arms up by your shoulders and really engage them like you are pushing a boulder away, and you're going to do it super slow at the same time saying a VU out. So in through your nose. So I'd go a lot slower than that.
Okay. I wish you guys could see me out here because I'm booing, but okay, slower.
Slower. Like you're pushing a boulder, like it's heavy. Push, 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 push. And you can do that to the side, and then you can also do it
Ah,
to the top, and you can do it to the bottom, and you can really get that energetic bubble. Like I can even
interesting.
hear the difference in my voice.
Hmm.
I get excited, right? When I'm with people. I'm like,
Yeah, people are energizing for me too. Hey guys, if you're listening right now, maybe hit pause and do this. It was kind of a fun little thing. I think I'm going to do it after the show. Probably won't continue doing that for you guys for the next 10 minutes straight, although would make an interesting episode.
do it
But
before you eat, and then it helps get you into the rest digest, right? It really helps
yeah.
your digestion do its job the best. So like if you can do that a couple times before you eat meals, oh my gosh, game changer.
Huh. So, okay, your first step wasn't somatic work, I assume.
No, that was the last step. That's why it took me so long to get better. Is
Yeah.
because I focused on the physical, focused on the physical, focused on the physical, and I never ever addressed the mental emotional trauma that my nervous system was stuck in.
Hmm. From when you were a little girl.
Oh yeah.
No, that's what I want people to hear. This is so our bodies are so complex in a beautiful way. The key is there. It's just hard to kind of like get out of our own selves and recognize like what we need to do is foundational to a degree. And I'm speaking to myself for you guys out there. Just I was eating upstairs. I've got a bowl in front of me right now. Is it like healthy stuff? Sure. But um babies, right? Like jobs, we're moving, life is moving fast. And so I could guarantee you that I haven't had a relaxed meal, even though we sit down as a family, my brain is going, right? In quite some time, at least, quite some time. So something to think around. Thank you for that. All right.
Absolutely. Great awareness. Because, yeah, so again, that's why I beat the drum that I beat, is because I want to save people time. I want to save people money. And if they don't address these things in the beginning, it's sad because most people with Lyme, they do it. We're been tied to a diagnosis, right? Here's a diagnosis, here's a treatment. Here's a diagnosis, here's a treatment.
Yep.
I see it all over the Lyme community. What did you do to treat? What did you do to treat? What did you do to treat? And I have to I have to stop them and be like, first, I needed to go back to square one, right? Focus on the basics, because any treatment that you throw at this, if you don't have that tiger switch turned off, if you don't have good healthy water and good healthy food, if you're not sleeping well at night, all that you might get better. Some people do get better without doing the foundational work, but guess what? They relapse.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did. Like the woman in the documentary, The Monster Inside Me, like she portrayed that so beautifully in that documentary. It was just, I was just like I was so
Mm-hmm.
excited because she did this healthy lifestyle while she went through treatment. She got better, went back to the old ways. Guess what happened?
Mm-hmm.
All the old things came back.
So common. And it's just like human nature to a
It is.
degree.
It's sad.
I remember for a long time I talked around bipolar in my pharmaceutical career, and the amount of times someone would go on these bipolar medications, they would feel better, and then they would come off in spiral. And granted, this is a whole different conversation because we weren't even looking at root cause at that point.
Right.
We were just trying to address the head. And so I just remember thinking, what is it to when someone gets at that point? Again, I was in a different mindset, but when someone gets clarity or gets clear or gets stable, whatever adjective you want to put on it, we tend to get comfortable and then just revert back. Here's another example for those listeners out there. I don't think we've talked around this, but the power of cold showers. I've been reading a little bit about why are we taking these scalding hot showers? I don't know, but I happen to be a fan of them. I did that for about 2 weeks, and then suddenly it was like, "Oh, no, okay, I'm done with it," right? But, like, I know it's good for me, but you just revert back to what is comfortable or what is easy, less resistance. It's human
Absolutely.
nature.
It is, absolutely.
So what else? Steps forward that got you to the point that we're talking today.
So it's the Dress for Success model by FDN. So it's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. And
Okay.
once
And
the
does this apply mainly to Lyme disease, or is this something
any
that do you work with
any
chronic?
any no matter how common a symptom may be, it is never normal, right? It is always your body's check engine light coming on saying, hey, there's a problem in here. And if you don't address it, it's going to get worse.
Okay.
Right?
Go through those again. Again, everyone needs to hear that on at least 5 times in this podcast, but we'll
No
sell for
matter
2.
how common a symptom may be, it is never normal. It is always your body's check engine light coming on to say, hey, there's a problem in here.
Okay.
So yeah,
Cool. If we could just end the podcast now, technically.
you're like, mic drop.
I do think we normalize so much.
Absolutely. Well, look at the TV commercials. Look at freaking Pepto, if you've got heartburn, indigestion, diarrhea, they're singing about diarrhea. That's how much we've made that normalized these symptoms, right? Growing up as a little kid, I thought I have a headache. I reach for a Tylenol. Not I should reach for my water because I'm probably dehydrated, which is like 80% of the reason why we get headaches. Right?
Absolutely. Another thing that, okay, I'm not going to go there. I could go on a total rabbit trail on this. Okay,
I know.
so
I have a feeling you and I could do this for forever.
I've got some beef with the media, but neither here nor there. Okay, so you guys, when you have a symptom, it doesn't have to be Lyme disease. I know this is a highlight of what we're talking around today, but is your body just saying, yo, wake up, help, come on, think through it, come get your intuition, lean on somatic help, lean on like how you are living in your body. But a symptom is a fire alarm. A symptom is a fire alarm. A symptom is a fire alarm. All right. If you had to actually talk to someone who's stuck in convention, and we're not in the place to reverse how we're not changing people's minds. People have to come to this on their own. I fully understand that. And I believe that there's a degree of preaching that just doesn't need to happen. When someone's ready to look at their body as a whole, they're ready. I hit that in my own space. You hit that from what it sounds like in your own space. But if you had to convince someone who was stuck in the conventional mindset, but you know that they could receive different care that would potentially bring them into full remission of Lyme disease, how would you talk to that person?
I don't know if I could or would. I mean, if they're stuck in the conventional model, like I've kind of over dragging people along into this world. Like at some point the light bulb has got to go off and they really have to want it. Like myself, I was stuck in the conventional model. And one day I looked around me and went, oh my gosh, if I keep going this way, I'm going to be dead. Like this is not working. All these pills, all this stuff, it's not working. So when they decide to, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. When they decide they want a different result, when they decide they want to get better, when they decide they want to step into their life and stop being a victim of the medical establishment, a victim of their childhood trauma, a victim of their, fill in the blank, and they want to get better, give me a call. But until somebody's ready to actually make lifestyle changes, be committed to themselves, like they're not ready.
No, contrary to that, someone who's listening to this and you sparked something in their mind by just hearing you speak, how would you compel them that there's more?
Oh my gosh. Usually with a free 30-minute consultation to just be a little deeper, because once I hear a little bit of their story, then I've usually got some good nuggets. Like, because people, it's funny that people are like, well, I eat healthy. And I'm like, okay, well, break that down for me. What does healthy look like to you? Oh, well, here's a perfect example. I had a woman that I was talking to the other day, easily 475, 500 pounds. And she was like, ow, and I eat healthy. I didn't eat it all today. I had coffee for breakfast and and I didn't sleep well last night. And I thought my head was going to explode. I'm like, well, first off, the sleep is a big reason why you're overweight, because we absolutely need sleep. And that's one. I'm like, 2, you put your body into starvation mode, and restricting calories is not how we lose weight. So just blowing up a lot of those paradigms and just getting them to see how the way they're living now is keeping them from where they want to be in the future. Right. And when we can tie those things together of making people understand that, this isn't going to get better on your own. It never does. It usually 10 times gets worse. It gets more expensive, right? So, what is it worth to you to be able to have energy to play with your kids after you get off work? Was it worth to you to chase around your grandkids? What is it worth of you to go on vacation with your husband and not be totally zapped and brain fogged, So it's hard to just have like that one thing to tell them, because everybody's story is going to be different. Everybody's why is going to be different.
Why is it so much harder to get better the right way versus going and getting a pill that will manage a symptom?
Because that's what we've been trained to do. I mean, we're only one of 2 countries that allow pharmaceutical commercials on the TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, one, that is absolutely disgusting. It should be illegal. Number two, what we do, people are so far removed from the way we grow animals, the way that we grow our food, the pesticides, the herbicides, the I get the whole nother soapbox. But so I think between being so far removed from sources of things that we're not removed from, um, and living just outside of the way we're supposed to live, just because we have artificial light doesn't mean we should be up till 2 o'clock in the morning. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just gotten too far out of left field on how a human is supposed to behave
Mm-hmm.
and act and eat. And now we've got all these lifestyle diseases, all these autoimmune issues.
Yeah. What's the number one issue you're treating right now in your clients?
Probably sleep. I would say sleep and anxiety and depression are all right up there.
Hmm. Well, okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up with a beautiful bow. You look vibrant, like truly radiant. You look super healthy. What's your key? I end every show with 3 things listeners can move forward with. You can go for those 3 things, or you can just say, my key to mental and body health is
I have to always put myself first. Nobody else will. There's no one going to come and save you. Like, you are the master and the creator of your journey. And if you don't take control over that, right, and say no when you can want to say no, right? That's just, I had to put in like I said, my lifestyle. I call it self-care, but it's not even self-care. It should be just care, right?
Mm-hmm.
My weekly detox, the way that I eat, my meal planning, my meal prep, I have to put me first, because nothing else gets done if I'm falling apart and I'm bedridden.
Well, and I'm finding it simple to listen to what you're saying, but then recognize the times that I don't. And then the repercussions of that are I'm grabbing and going a meal that doesn't serve my body and it's not growing it in the right direction, or I'm not getting good quality sleep because I'm up late trying to complete something, for whether it be work or, just computer. So
That
that's
didn't come to me overnight either. Even after I learned this stuff, it probably took me another good 4 or 5 years total before I completely learned how to walk my walk, because we are just hardwired. And I would go back to the old way. I'd get my butt kicked and then get back in line. And then I'd go back to the old way and get my butt kicked and get back in line. But now I've been in line for almost 2 years straight now. I've had no relapses, no weight gain back. I've lost 100 pounds. My brain works. I've started a business.
You've
So,
gotten off a substantial amount of medications, I assume, with those diagnoses.
oh yeah, I haven't been on a medication in 2 years. I'm on supplements. I'm doing a lifestyle and my diet. And yes, it can be a pain in the butt. Yes, it can be a little time consuming at time. But what's the alternative? I've been to the alternative. I don't want to go back there again, ever. Like, nobody should suffer the way that I suffered.
Okay. And your alternative was endometriosis, Hashimoto's, depression,
Oh yeah.
anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
suicidal attempts,
Mm-hmm.
Lyme disease,
Mm-hmm. Mold
girl,
toxicity.
mold toxicity, because your mobile was just off, right? Your body, it wasn't just one fire alarm. This was like a building, a high
5-star
rise,
alarm.
a high rise of fire alarms. Thank you for fighting and becoming who you are and getting this message out of hope. There's a roadmap to hope for health for every single person out there. Yeah, your story's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for being on the show. You guys, hey, email us at info@healingreset.com if you want to meet a practitioner like this who will walk with you and provide your information. If someone wanted to reach out to you what's
That's
your
what
website?
So yeah, right now I actually have a free mini cooking series. It's called Real Cooking for Real Life. And I'm basically showing you how to make delicious, amazing meals under 20 minutes or less. And so if you go to discoveringhealthfdn.com and the little pop-up will come up and get on there. Like I just put out a one freebie the other day, turkey pho. And oh my gosh, I got so many. They're like, you were so entertaining and it was funny and I learned a lot. And so it was just a lot of education because a lot of people cook for flavor, but I'll teach you how to cook to keep your brain from getting Alzheimer's when you get older, from, reversing autoimmune diseases, to lose weight, to have energy. So food is fuel.
Food is fuel. All right. On that note, adios. Great chat.